I am on the Iowa Museums, Archives, and Libraries Emergency Response Team, also known as IMALERT. And I have been on it for many years, actually, since its inception. So I'm excited to get the chance to present to you guys today and discuss what to do when things go sideways, because they do. I was just discussing that I have a water leak over my desk right now. So sometimes it's something major like a tornado or a flood, and sometimes it's just a broken pipe or some other minor disaster, but things go sideways. And so here are some topics and tips for what to do when that happens. There we go. So here's the overview of what I'll be discussing today. First of all, what is IMALERT? What you can do right now to get ready for a disaster, what to do when a disaster strikes, and what to do afterwards. So what is IMALERT? As I mentioned, it is the Iowa Museums, Archives, and Libraries Emergency Response Team. So when there is an emergency at a museum, archive, or library in the state, we will deploy to help you, however that looks like. So in 2014, it was created in the wake of the 2008 Iowa City floods, funded through grants and the Iowa Conservation and Preservation Consortium. So in 2008, there was a major flood in Iowa City and Iowa City Public Library, and I want to say Cedar Rapids, actually. Anyway, and the African American Museum, I believe, and the Czech Museum were all damaged badly in the floods, and they needed help. So kind of an ad hoc group of library emergency responders came and helped them, but they wanted to make something a little more formal that would be ready in the event of a disaster and prepared. It is staffed by trained volunteers. So we are very fortunate that the University of Iowa often has members of their conservation and preservation departments helping us, but all of us are volunteer librarians from across the state who are willing and ready and trained on a regular basis to respond. So what do? We can do one of two things. If you just need some advice, you can call our hotline, you can email us, and we can give you advice on what to do in a disaster. We can also provide on-site aid. So we can deploy a team to be on-site and help you if you need to. We'll do damage assessment to collection materials. We will do recommendations for collection recovery. We will help navigate salvage and drying processes, and we can do demonstrations of salvage techniques or organize a salvage operation. So what we can do is what you need. We can help you with your volunteers prepare for that, or we can actually do a lot of the work. This is the number that you need, the IMALERT hotline. If you don't have it, make sure you put it somewhere handy, put it in your disaster plan, put it where you can get to it. This is the number you call. It is staffed by, again, volunteers. I believe actually November was my month. So the hotline was routed to my phone for a month, and I would answer and help if you needed it. And if I couldn't help you immediately, then I would go ahead and refer to the rest of my group, and they would put in their information and let me give you the best advice that we can. So what can you do now to get ready for disaster? Disaster planning. And I'm sure you're tired of hearing that. I know the state library has put a big emphasis on that this year, but it's important. It's really important. When you have a disaster, when things do go sideways, if you are prepared for what to do, things will go much more smoothly than if you have to kind of make it up on the fly. The most important thing to do, especially for public libraries, is prioritize your collection. What is irreplaceable? Those are things that you're going to want to save, things that cannot be replaced. What is worth it? Freeze drying, some kinds of salvage techniques can be very, very expensive. So replacement cost versus the drying cost, you know, what are worth saving and what can you do to protect it now? Figure out if you have irreplaceable things that are in your basement, is there a way to get them up off the you know, the very lowest levels so that you can have some time to get them out of the way if water starts rising in your basement? If they are in a place where there is a regular ceiling leak, can you move them out of the way? Can you protect them? So all of the above are things that really are the most vital, because when you get to that disaster, you want to know ahead of time, what are the things that I really need to save? And honestly, in our library, it's like maybe 1% of our collection that really needs to be saved, and the rest of it could just be replaced. James Patterson can just be replaced. So that is the most important step that you can take prior to any kind of disaster, is to know what to do. So I will leave the rest of the discussion on disaster planning to the State Library. I think they've done a great job. Sam did at the off-site ones that they did. I forget what you call those. But anyway, they've done a great job, and they have resources for you, and I believe a toolkit that you can use to make a disaster plan. So I highly recommend going through that process. If you haven't gone through that process, or if it's been a while, make sure that your disaster plan is up to date. Are your vendors still in business after 2020? Things that you're going to want to check. So, what to do when disaster strikes? Well, call IMALERT. That's my first step. Don't panic is the most important thing. You know how they say the posters that say stay calm and call IMALERT. But panic is just going to get you worked up and impede your decision-making skills. So, secondly, make sure your environment is safe. Don't stay there if you're in danger of electrical problems, if you're in danger of fire, if you're in danger of chemicals in the water. Make sure that you're in a safe environment before you worry about getting help for your collection. Life and safety first. Gather what information you have. So what do you know about what's happened? What do you know about what's damaged? Whatever information you have, gather that all together, get your disaster plan, and then call the hotline for help. And we will help you navigate through. If you can tell us, how many books have been damaged, was it a major event? Was it a minor event? How important were those items? All of that can help us help you.
Hey, Joy, this is Scott. Just to interrupt real quick. We'd found out that chat was not working for attendees, so we've fixed that. And I did mean to let people know that the only way you can really communicate with us today is by using chat. So that was rather difficult there. For those of you that don't know, the chat button is down on the lower row of buttons, and it looks like a little bubble that right over the word chat. So if you click that, it'll bring up the chat window, and that will allow you to communicate with us. And so if you have any questions for Joy during her presentation, please let us know. She actually would like your questions as they occur to you. So Go ahead
As you've
and
noticed, mine's a little bit of an informal kind of presentation. So please
yeah,
do ask as we go along, because it's such a specialized and specific topic that if you've got a question about, water on books, I don't want to talk about it when I'm talking about water on DVDs. So we'll just go along. So I'm sure you're tired of me beating it into your heads, but still, call IMALERT. Call us. We will help you. What to do when you can get in, because you might not be able to get into your building right away after a disaster occurs. If there's been a tornado, if there's been a flood, if there's been an industrial accident nearby, all of those things might delay you being able to get back in. So once you are able to get back in, what do you need to do first? First, you want to take pictures before you move anything, before you try and salvage anything. Document, document, document. You're going to need that to get help from IMALERT. You're going to need that for insurance purposes. You're going to need that to plan your next steps. So take pictures, make notes, what is damaged, how many, all of those things. What hazards do you notice? All of those things, and then get together with your stakeholders and make a plan. That's probably your staff. It might be some of your library board as well. It might be your city, some of your city employees that might be helping. Whoever are your stakeholders, make a plan. And yes, the slides will be available later on. I think they've already set them as handouts to download, but I am not sure where. So I'll have Scott post that link in the chat when he can.
I believe they're usually available on our website.
So the next step, just like if you were in a medical disaster or some other kind of disaster, is triage. So at that point, you're deciding what items are priority. What items can be saved easily now, but not later. So if there are things that haven't been damaged, but that can be easily saved right now, let's get those out so that they can be saved and we don't have to come back later and have them be damaged. What items have minimal damage? If you have things that haven't been very badly damaged, those will be a lot easier to save. What items won't be damaged by waiting? There are actually some items that would be fine in water. There are some items that can just wait. Some items will get worse the longer you wait. So, and again, what items can be easily replaced and what items will be difficult to save. Those are going to be the last things that you want to save, are the things that can be easily replaced and the things that would be difficult to save. Some things you just have to write off. And that's sad, but true. So the important thing is to know what items are your priority, what can you easily save, and what can wait versus what can just be replaced or will cause a problem. So let's light water damage on books. I'm going to focus on water damage because that in Iowa is the #1 thing that we see, especially for library collections, because if you have a flood, you have water damage. If you have a tornado, you may have water damage. If you have a pipe break, you will have water damage. If you have frozen pipes, you might have water damage. If you have, a fire, you may also have water damage. So there are a lot of events and disasters here that happen that can result in water damage. So that's mainly what we're focusing on today. So light water damage on books. How you deal with that is you open the book and put paper towels between the pages. You might not be able to get it between every 2 pages, but in different, blocks as best you can, every, 3 or 4 pages, put a paper towel and interleave those in, and then use fans and moving air to dry them. You'll want to maybe take those paper towels out and replace them with dry ones that you move to different spots in the book during the drying process. it won't be, the book won't come back perfect, but if it's a light water damage, so the whole book is not soaking, but maybe just a little around the edges, you should be able to get that dry and the book should be fairly usable afterwards. Heavy water damage on books. So for those, you just want to get them in a freezer as soon as possible. You want to keep them in water until you can get them in a freezer. Because once they're out of the water, they're going to start drying and it's going to get large and swell, and you may have damage to the text. So you just want to get them frozen as quickly as possible. And then you're going to need to find a freeze drying contractor. So someone who does freeze drying professionally, and they will quote you, by the cubic feet of books, how much it would cost. If the items have shiny or photographic pages, do not freeze them. That will destroy them. They will never, ever open again. They will just be one solid block of plasticky paper. It will not. They don't come back from that. So, but for most regular paper books, you can just go ahead and freeze them. But again, let me go back here to this real quick. This is expensive. Freeze drying is an expensive prospect. So this is something that you're going to want to do with irreplaceable books and, super important local history items that cannot be easily replaced. Everything else you're going to need to figure out monetarily. Does it make sense to freeze dry these, or would it just be cheaper to replace them? So this is something that you're going to do with your priority collections, but not necessarily with all of your collections. Water damage on DVD. If it's light water damage, just take the papers out of the plastic case and allow everything to dry. If there's heavy water damage to it, you're going to just need to throw the paper inserts away and print a new one. Dry the discs gently with a soft cloth. You're going to dry your cases with paper towels inside and out and allow it to air dry. DVDs are one of the things that really honestly can wait. They are not harmed by water. So if you've got DVDs as one of your things, that's a collection that can wait. The papers are easy enough to replace. So in a priority setting, DVDs actually are not really going to be harmed by water, and they're pretty easy to dry off. Excuse me. I noticed Susan from Clinton said that we use a local school district's freezer for our city historical books of minutes that had water damage. Exactly. And that's something that you want to contact, especially during the summer. Your school's freezers are often empty and will allow that. Is there a meat locker that would allow you some space? I know we have contact with our local meat locker that if we need to, they will take some boxes of books from us and freeze them until we can get a freeze drying contractor in to take them. So definitely you're going to want to contact local people first just to get freezer space, to get them in the freezer until you can get your freeze drying contractor. Water damage to computers and electronic equipment. Unplug immediately. I know that sounds like makes perfect sense, but make sure you unplug them right away. You don't want things to fry. So unplug them immediately if there is water in the vicinity. Allow them to dry completely. So you want to make sure that everything in there is completely dry, and then wait another 3 days just to make sure. Blow air inside to make sure all water and dirt is off. And if you are not 100% sure that that item is safe to turn on, take it to a professional. So that's kind of my rule of thumb. If you can just dry it off and let it dry, like rice in your phone, do what you can to dry it off and let it dry. But if you're not 100% sure and it's important, take it to a professional. Water damage to wood and upholstered furniture. Most of us don't think about that. We think about our collections first, but we also have a lot of like stuff, tables and chairs and benches and, all of those kind of things. And they will take on damage if they have water damage. You want to get them out of the water as quickly as possible. Pat them dry with towels and allow them to air dry. Now you will need professional cleaning for upholstery and heavy damage. So like if your tables have gone through a flood, they may not come out quite right, even if you allow them to dry. Something important to do is you don't want to use heat or like a lot of fans and stuff to try and dry, because if they dry quickly, wood will go ahead and warp and splinter. So, if your upholstery, if the water damage has caused stains, if it has caused, if it was flood water and it has caused dirt and stuff, you may need professional cleaning as well. So for these things, again, you do your best, you try, remove them from the water, pat them dry with towels to remove all the excess water, and then just see what happens. If it's possible, I know we have a little upholstery cleaner, so I would probably use that on the upholstery to try and get any excess water out of the upholstery, just because that could cause some issues. You do the best that you can. And decide, is it worth it, or do I need to just replace this? Get a salvage wheel. This is probably the most helpful piece of equipment that we have as a team that you can have. A salvage wheel allows you to turn the wheel and see what steps to take to respond to a disaster and what steps to take for each different kind of material, textiles, wood, metal, plastic, all of those things. So I highly recommend one of these. I think they're about $10 is all. I have the link posted there, a tiny URL that you can use if you want to purchase one from the American Institute of Conservation. Highly recommend one of these. They're super useful. Of course, I hope you never have to use it. That's the thing about this. I hope you never, ever need it. But if you do need it, having one for $10 is great. And it's not like it changes. It's not like they change their mind about how you dry books, or how you deal with textiles that have gotten wet. That stuff's pretty standard and pretty well understood. So would highly, highly recommend one of those. So what do you do after the disaster? After everything's been salvaged, after you've picked up the pieces and kind of gotten together? Well, that's where we talk about lessons learned. So you'll want to go back and evaluate what worked well. What parts of your disaster plan were fantastic? What didn't work well? What kind of went off the rails a little bit? Just making those determinations, thinking it through in an analytical way. Kind of like those YouTube videos I was watching for the Chemical Society. What worked, what didn't, what can be improved next time? If a disaster happens, what can we do to mitigate the damage that's done? What can we do to improve our response to the disaster? And then write that into your disaster plan. That's where you go ahead and review that disaster plan and be like, okay, now we know how this worked. What can we do to make it better? And share. Just consider sharing the lessons that you learned at a conference or an online session. Write a listserv post or an article for the Catalyst. And once you're a pro at salvage and recovery, join IMALERT. You too can be a volunteer and receive continuing training. And Respond to disasters, help others. So who are you going to call? IMALERT. So there's that number again. And I believe that is the end of what I had for the presentation. But I can go ahead, and if anybody has questions about anything that I didn't cover, I would be happy to go back or go more in depth on anything that I have. I just wanted to make sure that I got everything in.
And I haven't seen any questions for a while. In
Yeah,
chat.
I was kind of looking to see as we went along, but are there any kind of disasters that I haven't talked about that you guys, are considering in your planning process? I hadn't thought much about chemical disasters, but sprinkler head broke. Yes, sprinkler head broke. We have a biofuel plant here in town, as well as a train track through the town. If microfilm can wait if it's in water. Things like microfilm. Okay, I'm going to grab, it depends on what the microfilm is made of. So I'm going to grab here in my books. Trying to remember about microfilm. I don't think it does well in water. I think you do need to leave it in water until you can get professional help. Looking for my salvage wheel here. Call sheets. So blood cleanup. Something else to consider are secondary hazards as well, like mold. That's something that you definitely have to consider when you are. I am going to find the microfilm. Paper. Microfilm rolls. Okay, they need to be rewashed and dried within 48 hours. So that is definitely not something that can wait. It needs to be, and the same with the VHS tapes. So I'm going to go ahead and see. Yeah.
Or audio cassettes.
Audio cassettes,
Probably.
all of that, yeah, needs to be.
Hard to dry those off, though, I would think.
Yes. Sound and video recordings. Immediately rinse off tapes with clean water, dry paper boxes and labels within 48 hours. Tapes can stay wet for several days. Do not freeze. So keep tapes wet in plastic bags, pack vertically in milk crates or polypropylene bins, and they can air dry. So actually, VHS and audio tapes are going to be a little easier than microfilm to handle, because those are. If freezing, keep wet, pack in box of 5s, arrange with a microfilm processor to rewash and dry. I know for me, the thought of freezing microfilm makes me twitchy, but I would definitely try and get that cleaned as fast as I could. Hold carton together with rubber bands. So yeah. Trying to look through here and see if there's anything else. I'm looking at the National Park Service. Actually, they have conservograms. And what you wash microfilm with is water, clean water. So with most things, when you're washing them, unless it's something that you know you can use a detergent on, I would avoid detergents and just use a clean water to try and get debris off. Yes, I agree, Jefferson. Another good reason to digitize our rolls of microfilm. We still keep our microfilm just in case, but ours is digitized because it's so much easier to use and you've got that backup in case something happens to it. Something else, especially if you've got a fire that happened. Again, we talked about secondary hazards, soot and smoke damage. So even though your items may not have been directly in a fire or may not even be wet, they may be covered in soot and you might have to deal with that. So there is a lot, a lot of options and a lot of different materials and different hazards. So it's kind of difficult to prepare for everything that could happen, which is why I kind of just went over water because that's the main hazard that we have here in Iowa. But there are plenty of other things that could happen. And that's why we have all these resources at IMALERT that we can help you with. I thought I had put a website. I'm going to go ahead and type it in the chat. What is the top emergency situation IMALERT deals with? Honestly, water. Mostly we've seen either minor flooding, like water getting through a door and just, taking maybe a couple of bookshelves, a couple of bottom bookshelves. We have responded to the Pacific Junction flood of, I think it was 2019, where the the Railroad Museum in Pacific Junction was, I don't know, like 10, 11, 13 feet of water in the building. So we saved what we could. And we did actually go out for 2 work days. We did one of them where we took things to a nearby museum, and then another one where we came down and helped them with some of the items that had been frozen, teaching them and teaching, I think they had a intern teaching them how to digitize, how to, take photos of the different pages and how to interleave them and how to dry those items that they were needing to now dry that had been frozen since the months that they spent underwater. We haven't really been called to deal with a tornado yet, but it's always a possibility. But mostly it's just rogue water. There's a pipe break in one of the University of Iowa campuses. Fireproof file cabinets. Are there storage containers that are truly waterproof? I don't know. We actually did find that the items that were held in like conservator level boxes, even though those are like a cardboard box, it really did actually protect the items inside. The water was all absorbed by the box around it, and the item inside was actually protected very well. So they're not joking about those conservator boxes. They're expensive, but there's a reason for that. Fireproof file cabinets. I don't know that that's something that I would necessarily invest in. My thought would be, rather than, unless there are a lot of historical documents that you're saving for a purpose, I would recommend actually getting most of your files and such digital, and then having offsite backup for those. That's how we do most of ours here at the Shenandoah Public Library, is most of our minutes from previous years and whatnot are kept digitally, and then those are backed up offsite. So if I had to, I tease that I could take a laptop down to Walmart and open the library. Or yeah, down to Walmart or down to McDonald's and open the library. So I don't know, unless there are specific things that you are specifically wanting to protect and have out of the way, then that might be a possibility. The problem with waterproof containers is that they also tend to be airtight in a lot of ways, and that's not generally good for items, especially books and paper. They tend to do a little better when they can breathe. So I don't know for sure that I would look for something waterproof. Almost more to protect things from water, I would almost say your best bet is to make sure they're elevated. So have at least one empty shelf underneath, and if they're really important, maybe a couple, and then some kind of protection on the top of the shelf that kind of hangs over, that would route the water away from those items. Really, more than anything, that does protect items from most of the water that we would see. Now, obviously, that's not going to stop a 13-foot Pacific Junction flood, but it would stop the rogue pipe, the sprinkler head, the rain in the office, that kind of thing.
Did we have any more questions for Joy today?
I would pop back through here, see if anything brings up anything.
You covered quite a bit.
No, I tried to think, if water came in here, what would it get? And I just imagine the water coming in and I'm watching it go. And that might be something to do, They call them a tabletop exercise, but maybe with your coworkers work through. Yeah, sometimes our city guys call us if there's flooding on the main street. That way we can come in and get our main computer tower. Yeah, exactly. If there's something that you can do to know what things are at risk and what things you can save right away, that, again, having that priorities list will definitely help you out. But you might consider doing it just a tabletop exercise. I know we all have a million other things to do at staff meetings, but if you've got a day where you're doing in-service or whatever, just what would happen if the water started rising in our basement? What would be damaged? What kind of things how could we get things out in time? Are there things we need to get out in time? Are there things that we could move now? Yes, it is always advisable to have a backup for the main computer. Yes, heartily recommend that. Offsite backups for your computer are vital. Like I said, I will walk down to McDonald's and turn on a laptop. Yeah, I see the one about the living room window. Yeah, this leak is part of a 100-year water leak that we thought we had fixed, and then it started coming back, and we can't figure out what is leaking on the roof. So they try and fix it, and then we have to wait till the next rain to find out it's still not fixed. So those are, but those are things to think about too. But definitely make sure you have your computer backed up, an offsite backup if possible, somewhere else. No heat in the building. Oof, the chip. Yeah. Get your gloves on for that one. but those are some things to consider working through too when you're talking, with your staff. If you've got a plan for no heat, if you've got a plan for a water leak, you might not need a plan for every single tiny thing, but just in general, what to do if that's what our emergency plan has. It has what to do if the air conditioning is down, what to do if the heat is down, who to call that can repair those. And if they can't get there, what steps do you take? When do you close? Some of those things you'll figure out as you go along, but if you can have some preparations ready, if you can have a process in place to make those decisions, that will help you when you're sitting there shivering and can't think straight because your toes are in pain and all of that. If you can think it through ahead of time, but especially with water, think about what you would do if a window got broken. The tree in front of our library comes down and breaks a window and water starts getting in. What do we do? How do we handle that? What kind of things would need to be moved and saved? Are there things that we can move away from the window that might, I'm thinking now, I'm like, I've got a computer right over there next to that window by the tree. Would it be possible for me to turn that computer around so it's more under that table? So if the tree came in, the table would protect the computer. Things like that. Hazard mitigation, as they would say in my chemical society. What can you do ahead of time just if something goes wrong? And obviously you're not going to be ready for everything. There's always something that's going to come out of left field and surprise you. And that's okay. But that's why you have an emergency plan. So then you can start reacting. Then you can call IMALERT and we'll help you figure it out.